Hello everybody, it's me again, the Mushroom Wizard, and I'm here with a whole new presentation for you concerning one of my favorite groups of fungi to pick, the toothed fungi of Saskatchewan. So, let's just jump right into it. The genre that are going to be included in this presentation are Hericium, Hydnum, and Sarcodon. So what is a toothed fungus? Toothed fungi are fungi that produce their spores along a series of spike-like teeth that hang down below the cap. And these are where you would usually find gills or pores in other mushrooms. These are choice edibles, at least the ones we're going to talk about today. I consider them all to be excellent quality, among my favorites. And they're perfect for beginner pickers because you can't really mistake them for anything dangerously toxic. I can't think of anything that's dangerous that has teeth on it. There are some that are unedible or unpalatable because they're bitter or because they're tough like wood, but those are usually very easy to differentiate between what we're going to be looking at today. So let's begin. Comb tooth fungus, one of my favorites, Hericium coralloides. So, the fruiting body, I'm not going to say cap because obviously there's no cap. The fruiting body is white or cream in coloration, and then as it ages, it takes on this kind of tan or brown appearance, usually starting at the tips and then moving inwards. It has many branches extending from one central branch. And usually you can't really see that central branch when it gets to be dense like this. It's in the middle and it's being obscured by all the branches coming off of it. And each of those branches is lined with a spore-bearing spine, or tooth as we call it. It's erect, it's pointing outwards when young. As it gets older and the spines get a bit longer, they droop downwards. So they're soft and pliable. It becomes harder, more tough with age, but still just as edible. And they're up to 8 inches across. So usually they're smaller. They'll be usually more about the size of a fist, but they can get to be quite long. It's got a very eccentric shape overall. So sometimes it'll be like a long sort of oval or whatever it may be. They have a white spore print if you do a spore print. That would be for artistic purposes, though, because there's not really anything you can mistake this mushroom for, except for other edible mushrooms. There is another picture of it with the spines drooping downwards, as you can see. How it's different from the one before. It's quite beautiful. Some size references for you. One in a hand there, like I said, the size of a fist, but they can be larger. There's a very small piece there next to a penny that I found. The teeth are white, turning tan, of course, jutting in all directions when young, like I just mentioned, and then drooping downwards with age. Those spikes, however, only grow to be around the 1 inch mark in length. And that's very important when determining between this and the next mushroom. In terms of ecology, they are saprobic. They grow directly upon fallen hardwoods. So you're not going to find this on a fallen pine tree. They are found midsummer throughout the fall, and they are fairly solitary. Sometimes you'll find groups on the same log, but often you'll only ever find one at a time. If you find many, that's a very good for your stomach. You can see in this photo as well, there's some age to this mushroom. It's got that browning or tanning that's starting at the tips there and moving inwards. Edibility, this is choice. This is one of the best mushrooms you can find. It's kind of sweet. It's got this unique taste that you can't really compare towards anything else, right? I mean, when you say, what do I compare a lemon to? It's a lemon. What do I compare a button mushroom to? It's a button mushroom. This is a comb tooth. It's a great taste. Fried in butter. Just some mushrooms are great as sides. This one's great all on its own as the main dish. It's also very easy to cultivate, and we'll cover that at some point in the future, cultivation of certain mushrooms. And this is, like I said, perfect for beginner mushroom pickers. Here's a very similar fungus. This is the bear's head fungi. This is not nearly as common in Saskatchewan, but it should just cross the border, the Alberta border. And this is Hericium americanum. You can see it there. It's very pretty. So very similar in terms of the fruiting body. I do believe these get a bit bigger. Many branches extending from one central branch, like you can see there, each branch lined with spore-bearing spines that hang down. It doesn't go through that phase where they jut out at all angles. Up to 8 inches across. White spore prints, so same thing from the much more common comb tooth mushroom. The bear's head fungi, you can see it here again. Often when it starts out, it's almost like a clumped together ball. Here are some size references for you. So a big enough mushroom certainly for the table. The teeth are white. They hang straight down, and those teeth will turn brown, again, just like we saw with the last mushroom. But here's a major difference. These grow up to 3 inches in length, so quite a bit longer. So when they're more mature, like you can see here, that's a very different look than what we saw with the comb tooth. It's almost growing straight down, almost like lion's mane mushrooms, if you're familiar with those, which do not occur here. This is saprobic. Again, it grows directly on fallen hardwoods. They're found midsummer through fall, and they occur solitary or scattered once again. I would say this is just a little scattered group there. And just the same as the last one, easy to cultivate, fry her up in butter or however you want, or without butter, just on its own. Perfect for beginners. Hedgehog mushroom, Hydnum repandum. Cute little guy right there. So this is a mushroom. See, I've got there, it says Hydnum CF repandum. So it's orange, tan, or yellow in color. It's convex, flattens out with age, and develops a slight central depression at times. Other times it's very eccentric in its profile, like looking down on it, it won't be round at all. Sometimes it'll just be like some random oval or bizarrety. The margin is smooth and downturned when young, becoming broadly scalloped or wavy with age. It is dry, uneven, develops cracks or pocks as it goes older. You can see some of those cracks forming there. They grow up to about 6 inches in diameter. Usually you'll find them smaller than that. Again, roughly the size of your palm. Here's a size reference for you. Let's talk about those teeth. So the teeth are soft and cream to kind of like an orangish color. So there's some variation there, and I'll explain why there's some variation in a moment. They're decurrent. They run down the stipe, and they produce white spores. There's a close-up of those teeth. They're soft, though. It's not pokey. Instead, it's yummy. The stipe is off-white in color. Tends to have orange or yellowish kind of tones to it. They're about 3 inches high and about 1 inch thick. I say thick and wide there. That's a mistake on my part. They're cylindrical to clavate to bulbous. And as you can see there, you see 2 fused together as well. So there's a lot of variability in the stipes. They're smooth to touch. There's no like scales or anything on there usually. They're solid, and they have a central to eccentric attachment. So that means that they'll connect to the center of the cap, just like you would see in most mushrooms, or they'll be off center or just completely bizarre in how they connect to the cap. The ecology is one of, it's mycorrhizal. It's mycorrhizal with spruce trees and with quite a few hardwoods. They occur midsummer through fall. They are found solitary or in scattered groups. Sometimes they can be quite gregarious. Sometimes they'll also form rings. There's variability there again, and I will get to that in 1 second. They're terrestrial. So why the variability? Hydnum repandum doesn't actually occur in Saskatchewan. It is in fact only found in Europe. But when people first came over here and they wanted to explain the mushrooms they were seeing, they noticed that a lot of the mushrooms here look just like the mushrooms in Europe, because of course they stem back to an age when the land masses were connected through various means. But since then, the species have changed. So they look the same macroscopically, but they're not the same. And what science has uncovered is that in North America, many of these species that appear to be from Europe are whole different species. But not only that, they're actually multiple species. So in Saskatchewan, we have likely several hedgehog species that under the microscope are completely different, but when you look at them are the same, but for very small nuances. And that makes things tricky, but luckily for us, they all taste very good and they are all edible. So it doesn't really matter. We'll just call it Hydnum repandum until science figures out what everything is. Moving on. These are choice mushrooms. They have a very sweet taste. Again, a very unique taste. One of my favorites. They're excellent in any dish, in any capacity. They're a good mushroom to dehydrate. And they are great for beginner mushroom pickers because you're not going to confuse it for anything else. The white hedgehog, Hydnum albidum. So this has a white cap, or kind of like a cream cap. Sometimes it'll have a little bit of a yellow or orangish undertone. It looks pretty much like the hedgehog in all other aspects. It's smaller. It's up to 5 inches in diameter, and tends to be more eccentric in shape. There, if you look at those photos, here's some size references for you. Teeth are soft and cream to peach in coloration, decurrent with a white spore print. And those are those teeth again. So yummy. The stipe is off-white in color, up to 3 inches. I say thick, I should say high, and 1 inch wide. So again, it's smaller, cylindrical to clavate to bulbous. Smooth, solid, central eccentric attachment, same as before. Again, mycorrhizal with spruce and hardwoods, occurring midsummer through fall. These ones form rings and sometimes found in groups, sometimes just by itself. Terrestrial. Once again, there could be several species here. The edibility, just like before, exactly the same. If you find it, pick it, eat it. It's great. Cook it first. Moving on to the Hawkswing mushroom, or the scaly hedgehog, or one of a billion other common names that this mushroom has. This is Sarcodon imbricatus. The cap ranges from brown to tan, and it's kind of like a beige, just everything. You can see all those colors mixed together there, several different browns. It's convex, it flattens very quickly, and sometimes it'll develop a slight central depression there, and you could see this interesting thing happening with the scales almost being sucked into that depression. It is very often eccentric in shape, oval, or it'll take on this strange sort of wing shape. It's almost like an L. The cuticle is zonate, and if you remember, zonate is where it has kind of concentric rings, and in this case, it's concentric rings of scales. It starts in the center there and then moves outwards. And it is very coarse and dry, with those scales being quite raised. You run your hands, so it's very rough. The margin is downturned and smooth, later becoming usually wavy as the margin lifts upwards as it flattens out. And these get quite big, up to 12 inches. Here's a size reference. Somebody put their pocket knife on one, and you can see that it's got this kind of almost L shape starting to form in the bottom one and in the top right there. The teeth are gray to tan in coloration. They are brittle. They're not as soft as they are with the hedgehog. So I find that I like to knock those teeth off before cooking. And they'll break off easily, almost like pine needles. Just get rid of them. They are adnate to slightly decurrent, and you can see there it's actually slightly decurrent in this one, how it's starting to run down the stipe, and the teeth are much smaller as it connects to the stipe there. And this produces a brown spore print. And that stipe is gray in coloration. It is solid. It's cylindrical, and its attachment is again either central or eccentric. It'll be off kilter. And it's up to 3 inches high, 1.5 inches thick, usually a little bit smaller. These mushrooms are often very close to the ground. The ecology. Okay, so these are mycorrhizal with spruce. If there's no spruce trees around, you have the wrong mushroom. They are found summer through fall, and they grow solitary or in scattered groups. It seems not to be the case when you're looking at my photos, but these are usually the exceptions. When people take photos, they're usually perfect specimens that happen to be several together. And these are terrestrial mushrooms. Their edibility, it's subjective. I consider them choice. Some people don't. They have a very strong taste to them. I like to dehydrate these mushrooms and then eat them later on as almost like jerky. You got, like I said, remove the teeth. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of just annoying. The teeth get everywhere. Strong taste. Good for beginner mushrooms. Mushroom pickers. Here's a look-alike alert. But don't fear, it is not a toxic one. So you can very easily mistake this mushroom for Hydnum scabrosus, which is completely different genus, but it looks similar. You'll have to look the two of them up to see the full differences. I won't be able to go over them here with you now. You can do that on your own time. Hydnum scabrosus is called the bitter hedgehog for a reason. It's bitter, it's gross, it's tough. You take a bite and you'll know. And finally, we have the turtle hedgehog, Sarcodon squamosus. And this is what this mushroom was called a while back in Quebec when it was actually sold there. People would find them and sell them at various markets as turtle mushrooms or turtle hedgehogs. So stole that name and brought it here. This is a mushroom that is very similar in appearance to the hawkswing. Some of the main differences we're going to cover, but they won't be here. Oh, there is a big difference. When this gets old, it becomes blackish purple. So that is not something you would see in the hawkswing, that blackish purple. And you can see it there, actually. There's a blackish purple top for you with a size reference. Big mushroom. These are gray to tan in coloration. You can see it gray there. As it grows older, it'll be more tan, and you can see that kind of tan starting to happen on the stipe. They're brittle, adnate to slightly decurrent, breaking off easily, like I said before. Same as before, just remove them. You can see spots where they've been knocked off already. Brown spore print. That stipe is the same as before. Cylindrical, declavate. These are mycorrhizal with pine trees. So before, we had a mushroom mycorrhizal with spruce. So that's the easiest way to tell the difference between these two mushrooms. If you're around jack pine and you find a hedgehog, what you have is a turtle hedgehog. If you're around spruce trees, what you have is the hawkswing hedgehog. These are found summer through fall. Grow solitary or in scattered groups. But once again, all the photos I have seem to be of them in clusters. But that's not going to be the norm. There's a fairly old one. Again, you can see quite a color difference from before with the hawkswing. This is a choice mushroom again, as far as I'm concerned. However, there is a difference between this and the hawkswing. If it's an older mushroom, it will start to take on a bitter aftertaste. So, younger the better. And again, there is that look-alike alert. Yeah, you could look those up. And that's it for the toothed fungi of Saskatchewan. I hope you enjoyed this video. There will be more to come. Thank you very much. This is the Mushroom Wizard. See you later.